On today's episode, we had Dave come on. Dave is an owner of a gym in Maroochydore called Flow St8 with an 8. He's fantastic work what he does. He adds many different modalities and methods into one kind of training session. A bit of the East, bit of the West, and all this kind of amazing stuff. And in today's chat, we kind of break down the flow method, he calls it, in his gym, which was quite cool, and how to, be in flow with life, and then, getting the best out of the yin and the yang and finding your balance in life, which was a fantastic chat, I reckon, and breaking all this down, and a lot of value that was in it as well. Before we jump into today's episode, guys, also like to mention, I do have Creating Your Legacy t-shirts on my website, so head over to mitchellcrocker.com, find everything there. And also too, if you'd like to help to support the podcast that little extra bit, go to patreon.com/studio mindfulness, which I'll link all this stuff below, and I'll link all Dave's stuff down below too, which I highly suggest go check it out. Check out all his social medias, Flow St8 as well, and all that, which will be all linked down below. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. So cheers. Sweet, man. Welcome to the show, Dave. How are you today?
Mate, in the sunny coast, the birds are chirping, sun's out, we're not in lockdown. I cannot complain.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful day out there. Spent a bit of time out there this morning, which was good, near the beach and that. So yeah, cannot complain with the weather and that. So man, so you started your own gym. It's called Flow 8. Is that correct?
Flow St8, yes, with an 8.
Yeah, sweet. And it was actually quite fun going through all your stuff and that, because of how many modalities you cross into this gym.
Yeah.
So we'll start actually with your journey and how it's come about into what you have now.
Yeah, well, I've been in fitness, maybe in and out of fitness for probably, how old am I now? 33. So probably 12, 13 years, but really earlier than that, because I played, a decent level of sport growing up, and that introduced me to a lot of the sport science, that type of fitness approach. And then early 20s, got into personal training, did the whole competition, competing more on your, not bodybuilding, but, the muscle model and fitness model stuff back in the day. Gradually just being on that journey, got into yoga a little bit. I actually got into a bit of everything. So I had a job on a cruise ship, actually. So I was director of fitness on a cruise ship based in Miami, and I had to run Tai Chi classes, yoga, spin, pump, run seminars on the body, nutrition, all the above. And then got into a supplement industry, and that led me and then I got into self-development, mindset, leadership, and got more into entrepreneurship. And then in 2019, I probably had like a bit of a crash out, life low moment where you had a few businesses, go under, lose everything, and then you have to rediscover, well, who am I? Why am I here? What's my dharma? What's my purpose? Where to next? And fitness had been the thing that had got me out of a rut when I was probably 21. So I did a few, saw a few specialists, from astrologists to healers to doing just different online personality tests. And it was really, really clear I had to get back into fitness, mindset, philosophy, all the above. And through just experimenting, getting my own health back and getting my own mind right, I kind of started, long story short is had to move back with my parents for a couple of months because I'd lost a lot of money in a couple of years. And so I wanted to train myself. And I'm like, well, I need to do some yoga. I need to do some weights. I need to do breath. I need to get back. So I knew I had to do like 10 different modalities, and I couldn't really decide which one to cut. So I kind of just started playing at home and mashing them all together and created my own sort of sequence for myself. And within 20 to 30 days, every injury I had was healed. I was just peak state all day, every day. And I was like, shit, I think I'm onto something here. Like there's some kind of magic in this. And then we did online, and same sort of thing. People are like, I don't know if this is a coincidence, but my injuries are healing up. I'm feeling amazing. I'm like, well, there is no coincidences, and definitely not. It's on repeat. So yeah, then was looking for a studio this year, early or late last year. And obviously Melbourne and New South Wales were probably not the best spots to do it with COVID. And this site in Maroochydore popped up. So I packed the bags, moved up, took the leap of faith, and moved into Maroochydore, which I've always wanted to get back to the sunny coast. I think it's one of the best parts of the world. So it was a great excuse, and it all come together perfectly from rock bottom though, which is kind of cool. And if I hadn't gone to rock bottom, I would have never figured it out, never figured out my purpose, and maybe stayed on the wrong path for a long time.
Yeah, man. Like what's the saying? It's like rock bottom's probably one of the best teachers of anything. You
Yeah.
kind of need to hit that full pain threshold before you like get pivot up. Because the only way once you hit that place is, you know, to go straight up kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I see it with a few people. Sometimes they hit like just before rock bottom, but it's not until they actually hit that place they don't go up. It's like some people just hover there.
Yeah, I think it's called the luck of band effect, where the further back you can fall to rock bottom, the stronger that catapult can be. So yeah, when people are like struggling and going under, like I struggle to show compassion, because I'm sometimes like, oh yeah, this is the beautiful spot. This is where you get to figure out who you are. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm exactly the same. Like I've learned so many things out of like a few times I've been at my own, like, guess personal rock bottoms and that. And when I hit those places, that's when I seem to spring, you know, up, and then you learn the most from that, because you learn all these coping tools along the way up.
Yeah. And my favorite quote from movie Fight Club is, it's not till you've lost everything, you're free to do anything. So there's a huge liberation in stripping back. You know, I had to give back the car, the Merc, you know, everything. So, but there's a freedom in that. There's a liberation in that. It's like, oh, all these things that were tying me down, you know, whether it's a mortgage or rent or a business that was tying you down, all of a sudden I was like, hey, I'm actually kind of free here. I can do whatever I want. And we're in a time in the world where you can do whatever you want within reason. So yeah, it's not so bad.
Yeah, like you're exactly on point there, man, with that. It's like, because of having online, your reach goes so much further. You don't have to spend as much time trying to, you know, build those networks or build that business, because you can do
you
it.
can learn anything globally. Like you can learn anything in the world right now online.
Yeah, pretty much. That's definitely true. And it's like pretty much with the books that I've got behind me at the moment. It's different aspects of everything in that.
Yeah. That's
kind of thing. So what was some of the, I guess, mentalities that you brought into the flow method?
So we start every session with breath work, which has many benefits from a scientific standpoint. We can change your physiology, your neurochemicals, the nervous system operation, hormones, all the above, you know. But on a spiritual level, for the last 4,000 years, they've understood that breath connects you to spirit, to your higher self, that we can channel chi, prana, basically charge our body with life force, something beyond wisdom. So we do that. We do yoga, which is really part of breath. Well, yoga should be breath work, the asanas and meditation, but it's kind of changed along the years. But we do meditation, of course, and, you know, follow a lot of guys that we were talking earlier. Peter Crone has inspired a lot of the meditation strategies we do. Joe Dispenza has inspired many of the meditation techniques we do. Yoga has, Zen meditation, to Taoism. So even within our meditation, there's a hybrid of maybe 7 or 8 influences. And then same with the breath work, we're using Qigong breath work, some Chinese medicine style inspired breath work, yoga, and then some more modern stuff from the Oxygen Advantage guys, the Wim Hof style. So even within the breath work, the yoga, there's a hybrid within each of them. And then if we look at our mobility kind of blends together sort of your prehab, rehab, physio exercises with more kind of like your primal animal flow, those types of movements. And then if you look at our functional training, you know, we're really adopting some more high level, you know, elite athlete stuff, that what all the colleges are doing in America right now, and the way they're training and their principles with a lot lighter weight, a lot more single leg stuff, eccentric movements, slowing it all down, playing with the tempo. And they're creating, you know, I think you become almost a super athlete when you've got control of that. So yeah, within the many modalities is another many modalities influenced each one. So it's kind of cool. It's fun. It's, you know, I'm probably endlessly reading, researching, and trying to put it together without people going, this is too crazy. But that hasn't been the problem, which is cool.
It's so cool, man. Like I do resonate with what you're saying a lot, because that's what I bring into a lot with my work. It's so many different modalities and stuff. And like you asked at the start, it's like, what's like the one you specialize in? And it's like, well, I grab a bit from everything and then tie it into your own. And I think that's like the most important bit, as well as like all these different modalities and tying them into one. And I guess this is where you see the best results instead of just focusing on one.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, I think you've mentioned a few times in a couple of videos, is that when you just focus on, say, one, modality, you end up burning out the other stuff.
Yeah. 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 Well, what we say in it is, we do a full circle of wellness, and we say, if you're doing your strength and conditioning, your yang, not only can it neglect the yin of your mobility and flexibility, it can make it worse. So it's super important to the whole yin and yang, do both. Everything should be an integration, a balancing act. Life should be a balancing act, of masculine, feminine, night and day, sleep and rest, having a good time, work, all the above, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's finding that, like, I guess, say, your own balance, and with that, because that's where if you don't find that balance, that's where you find a lot of people burning out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, so like with this method and that, where do you find, before people jump into it, where do you find that people burn out the most or overwork in certain areas before?
Well, they overdo everything is the biggest problem. Most people that are into fitness generally overtrain, overwork. Everything's yang. Too much coffee, too much phone time, too much work, too much drive, too many workouts, too much plyo, too much resistance, not enough recovery, rest, restoration, downtime, meditation, isolation, stretching, decompression. So that would be, most people that are into fitness have a massive out of balance that way. And what happens is, they're injured, they're sore, their adrenals burn out, their stress levels, anxiety, all the above. And then on the flip side, you do get a lot of people that have done excess yin in a lazy way, I'll say. And yeah, they don't do a hell of a lot, and just haven't found the right place that's comfortable for them, the right environment, the right method, or they've just most of the time they just get life gets in the way, and they put themselves and their own routine for their health, body, mind, soul goes to the bottom of the list. And when that list is always full, it never gets hit.
Yeah, I guess that's like the hard, I guess, sometimes with people, because they have such a full list and they just think, because they get so attached to these things, because I guess it's that safety, but they know what they're doing each day. And then as soon as you bring that something else in that's probably going to make it better, and start cutting out a few things, you find that people have a lot of resistance against
Massive.
it.
Yeah, massive. Yeah. People don't like change.
Yeah. It's quite fascinating how much the brain doesn't like change and evolving and that. And, one thing I've learned through this journey is like the frequency of the universe is actually, evolving, or evolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess, what parts of Eastern and the Western culture have you really started to combine together, and break that down a bit?
Well, a lot more East, I would say. If you look at the word flow, if you Google the philosophy of flow, it'll come up as the Tao, or Taoism, or Taoism, whatever you want to call it, which is the most ancient Eastern philosophy that we're aware of. And it's basically, it's the opposite of the Tao, or Taoism is a gentleman, they say, that was named Lao Tzu, wrote a book called the Tao Te Ching. I think it's got 81 verses, and it's his observations of nature, and it shows, and it just interprets how we live by the same rules. We are nature, we are part of nature. And when we live in harmony of nature and can adopt those principles, and he uses water a lot as a great example to live our lives, life becomes more effortless. We hit the flow, or the sweet spot. And what's funny about that is, if you look at modern psychologists and scientists and their work on what flow state is, and they're testing your neurochemicals, your nervous system, all those different things, how to trigger it, they're pretty much just talking about what the Taoists called Wu Wei, which was effortless action, or non-action, which is just in that total state of being, not stuck in our head, totally immersed in what we're doing, surrendered to the outcome, and just enjoying the process and really getting involved in it. And that's why it's probably been called at some point flow state on this modern science level. But really, the more exciting part for me is the living with the Tao, because it's not just about triggering flow state while I'm riding or shooting a basketball. I can live my life in a flow state. I can start to see all the moving parts of my life as totally surrendered, impartial, and just going about every action of my day with whatever faces me, and I'll just hit that each scenario of life with enthusiasm, with peace, with acceptance. And that's a very blissful state, you know, to live life in.
Yeah, which is so important. I loved how you pointed out, especially acceptance, and
Yeah.
that's probably the best way to, find that flow in life. And then the more that you kind of accept, the easier it becomes and work forward. And then there's no resistance as well.
Yeah. 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 It's very exhausting to
Mm.
fight reality or fight the current or fight what is.
Yeah,
And it's a war you will never win, because we have, and what they talk about is we have very little control over things. So when you're trying to control everything and we have no control, that's a formula for suffering and a lot of frustration.
yeah. And as we're talking about with Peter Crone, he goes, live in the energy of uncertainty, because that's what
Embrace
life
it.
is.
The only known. Yeah. So yeah, Peter Crone's, if you listen to a lot of his stuff, he's definitely done some reading, I think, on the Tao and Eastern philosophy for sure. And he's big into yoga and whatnot. So yeah, it's all a lot of the yoga practices and philosophies from that time and the Tao in China, India. There's a lot of similarities, and even the Stoics in Europe, similar time periods within reason. And it's a lot of the same philosophies of they all sort of clued into it all back then, and we're only rediscovering it a few thousand years later.
Yeah, it's quite funny how it's like some people come out as like new research, even though a lot of this stuff's been around for ages, and it's just science is now backing it up. And as you're saying, it's like a look into like the East, the West European cultures. A lot of the time they're saying the same things, but the language, the way they use it, was just different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when was that you first discovered flow?
Great question. Really good question. I'm not actually sure. It just it hit me from multiple angles, because I was getting back into Eastern philosophy and I started seeing the word flow like water. I was getting back into the sports stuff, and I've got an interest in psychology, biohacking, and they're talking about flow. And then yoga talks a lot about flow, and every second Pilates studio is called Flow. So I just started at Bruce Lee was a big Taoist, and I started following him. So all this, just doing a broad set of research and bringing it into my own practice, I just kind of started seeing that flow is actually connected everywhere. It's, yes, you could call flow the way you move with perfect body mind control through a pose. Yes, it could be hitting that flow state and being in the zone, but it's also a philosophy of living effortlessly, living somewhat impartial and in just total acceptance, whatever life brings. So that's where it all kind of just come together at the same time. And I really resonated with it. And it's such a good way to live. Like one of my affirmations is, what will the Tao bring me today? Or what adventure? Because God, then it becomes kind of like a game rather than why is this happening to me? It's kind of like, well, why is the universe or Tao flowing this into my life? It's kind of now from a point of curiosity and or as Jim Rohn says, turn frustration into fascination. Like, why are you doing in something that might trigger us? Instead of, why is this happening to me? You go, why? What's this doing for me? Like, why is it here? Versus that anger and what you mentioned earlier, that resistance.
Yeah, which is, I think it's so important to as you're saying, I don't know why none of this is really taught in school, and that it's starting to reframe things, because it's somehow like, I don't know, with Western culture, we have to have control over everything. And like, this is just not so true. And then it's like now, I guess with, Eastern starting to come a lot more into the Western society, we're understanding that it's more, as you're saying, it's more just being in flow and, changing the language we use around it, saying like, sort of, as you're saying with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like one of the, another quote I like is everything's not happening to me, it's happening for me, like little perspective changes like that. Imagine how much different one's life could be if every time something perceived to be wrong, we are like, why is this happening to me? Versus we're getting excited about it. Like, why is this happening for me? Like, what's the, so it's a very, it could be seen as a bit of a cliche, positive everything, but it's a much better way than the latter.
I definitely agree, man, because it's like as well too, like a lot of the time with the quote unquote negative emotions, and then you put it into a positive, it's just the mind telling you what's the difference. The body reacts in the same way. It's like being nervous and excitement, the body still reacts in the exact same way, and it's all you have to do is change that you know, the word that you use, and you realize that you are excited instead of nervous.
Yeah.
And then generally with that too, like being nervous is a source of energy as well,
Yeah.
that you
So,
can say if you, before you do a talk or a
yeah.
sports event, that's like an energy source that you can
Yeah.
tap into and then
Oh,
bring out.
yeah. 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 No, absolutely.
Mm. So I guess what are some things that you bring it that you do in your daily routine to help you to, you know, find, I guess, flow, or that brings you, you know, into that state?
Yeah. Well, I do find myself anchoring my breath a lot more frequently every day, just and anchoring back down. So I do find that I do that more and more as I get better at it. But I'm still, the teachings of Taoism and the Tao and letting go. If you can't read it once and implement it, like it takes reminding. So I've got my 12 principles on my phone, and I'll look over them every day. And like today, I looked at it. There's some frustration in my morning. It said, accept reality as it is right now. It's meant to be this way. So some things that were kind of frustrating me, I was like, yep, remember, everything it's as it's meant to be. There's a reason this is showing up. So I surrender to it in a way, Number two is embrace challenge, voids, triggers, because that's showing you something you can grow from. So, I'll go over that daily. And each day, one of the 12 will resonate with me more. And it just helps you recenter and get calm, grounded, relaxed, let go, surrendered. And then you're in that calm state and you can move on with your day versus holding on to that negative energy or frustration and carrying it with you for maybe hours, days, weeks, becomes your personality eventually. So yeah, they're the main ones, and just stuff I've been doing forever. Always do a greens in the morning. Try and keep hydrated. Bit of salt, Himalayan salt or Celtic salt in my water. Get the electrolytes up. Try and get enough sleep. If I'm tired, I'll take a 10-minute meditation. And obviously keep active and try and eat healthy. Like they're not it's not news breaking stuff really.
Yeah, it's pretty funny how basic a lot of it is, and I think that's like one of the best things with like technology where my phone is that I even set reminders of myself with stuff during the day just to remember to do things. It's like I think one of them I have halfway through the day. It's just like ground yourself, take a deep breath in, because something that's a lot of people forget to do. And when I first actually started to get into this like kind of journey, that's the first thing I actually learned was how to breathe.
Yeah.
And realizing how many of us don't actually breathe properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm a terrible breather, so I really need to do the breath work. I'm a mouth breather. I've always had different sinuses. I've got a break down my left nostril that I never got fixed. So I'm a terrible breather. So yeah, I really need, if I don't try and really force that nasal breathing, regulate, do some alternate nostril, like I'm missing out. Like I'm leaving a lot on the table.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that a little bit as well, man. Because I guess when you look at the fight or flight responses, my one's normally freeze, and freeze is the one where you don't normally breathe properly.
Yeah.
So it's like
Hold
hyper.
on. Yeah. I'm the same. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, sorry, I'll let you go.
No, I'm the same. Always just hold the breath for that short while you're doing something. You're just unconsciously holding the breath unnecessarily.
Yeah, like even last night when I did a meditation session, I noticed myself because not breathing through it or forgetting to, because it would just drop into that zen, and I'm like, well, you gotta breathe.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
So also too, what are some of the breathing techniques that you kind of teach people to help them to bring to that, back to their zen state?
Yeah, well, I always categorize breathing into three categories. You can either do a breath that's going to charge you up and trigger a fight or flight response, such as your Wim Hof or your fire breathing. Generally just a larger inhale than exhale. Your warrior breathing, strong in and out. That's going to energize the body. Anything balancing is pretty easy. Box breath, Buddha breath, when they're in and out of the same. Like box breath, obviously 4-4-4-4 is very effective. I like the Buddha breath, 5 in, 5 out. How monks train to breathe. They say that's very harmonious. It plays like the surf. They call it the perfect symphony in your nervous system and on a cellular level. And then to really relax, just a super long exhale. Bring some ohms into it. Bring some sound. One of my mentors calls it the sigh of relief. Double breath in. Dump it all. Let it go. There's an archery breath where you basically breathe it in and shoot it out. So there's a lot of things. There are a lot more stress relieving ones. 4-7-8 is quite good. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. The Buteyko, one of the Buteyko suffocation breaths is in as slowly as you can, out as slowly as you can through your nose. So you might even get up to 18, 20 seconds in and out, and that'll make you pretty calm pretty quick. So yeah, there's a handful of them, and then you play, and then I like to play with a few of them as well. Or in a 5-minute breath work, I might start with a charge, then go to a ground, or I might start with a grounding and then charge up. So you can kind of get pretty playful with it, or do the alternate nostril with a box breath, or the alternate nostril with a triangle breath, or there's many variations, and yeah, it becomes a bit of a game, really.
It's so fun, man, because I even like in my morning meditations and nighttime meditations, not with nighttime as much, but with the mornings, just playing around with them, and then jumping into an activation breath and then into a relax, and then depending on what I have for the day. And I find it's quite fun because they all intertwine together somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, as you said, you've got to be goal specific. Whatever you want to do, there's a breath for it.
Yeah, 100% with that. What have been some of the best teachers you have come across so far that's helped you along?
For breath, or
just generally, man.
For breath, I love Dan Brulé. He was coach Tony Robbins, Olympic teams, and he's just a great guy. He's a great dude. Very free spirit, and he's got a great understanding of the science and the spiritual side. So I really like him. Where, I love the oxygen advantage guys and that stuff, but it's a bit more sciencey. Where I kind of like the mystique and the mysterious. And then meditation, Peter Crone has probably a lot of influence. Joe Dispenza helped me categorize my meditation. So I will kind of see. I now categorize there might be 20 mini techniques I use for meditation. So I'll now separate them into focusing on the past, the present, and the future. And I got a lot of that from Joe Dispenza, talking about how our state is often a byproduct of bad memories of the past. And we hold into those emotions in the now, and we fear a future we don't want, which Peter Crone talks about as well. But so yeah, I think those guys in meditation, and then yoga, no one specifically. I did my course with Vikas, and they're great. But I'm always, there's so many cool. Like I spend an hour on Instagram just watching all these talented people from all over the world. It's pretty cool that you can, if you follow the right hashtags and the right accounts, like you can pretty much watch the best in the world at all these different modalities, and you're just nonstop picking up different things, learning. And then on a Chinese philosophy perspective, one of my good friends is very well known in that space. But there's a great book called the Tao of Health, Sex, and Longevity, and that had probably absolutely huge or new light bulb moments for me, I guess I'd call it.
Yeah, it's quite, there's so much to, even as you're saying, like, especially with online, if you follow the right people, and this is what I talk into a lot, it's just like you can actually rig the algorithms to benefit you.
Yeah.
And I find that quite amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool. So social can be as good as it can bad. What do they say? It's like a lot of things. It's a terrible master, but a great servant.
Yeah, and it's like the laws of polarity.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah, man. So yeah, wrap it up on this question, man. What is the legacy you want to create?
Well, definitely through Flow State. We want to be a brand that brings the integration to the world, bringing together body and mind in a workout. It hasn't really been done well. We could argue yoga's been doing it for 4,000 years, but in my opinion, it hasn't been done well. No one, there's a lot of great breath workshops on a weekend or whatever it may be, but not a lot of people have been able to implement it day to day with a great system. So yeah, we want to help integrate East and West, the old and the new, masculine, the feminine, recovery and performance, and take it to the world. And hopefully, if the big, hairy, audacious goal, as Jim Collins says, is that ideally it becomes a global brand and you've made a global impact, but still got to get past this first sight too. So I'm always falling into the trap of trying to have my head in the clouds and the feet on the ground, and I often get caught in the clouds. So I've got to bring my feet down a lot of the time.
Yeah, I resonate with that last little bit too, man. But yeah, I think that's amazing, man, because you are definitely right. It hasn't been done too well. I haven't seen it done like that before either. and many stuff that I've researched in that, it's normally the different mentalities all kind of spread out, and to get them into one, I think that's where you're going to see the biggest like transformation in people's lives.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate your time.
No worries, mate. Always good to chat. Anything in this nature.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thanks for tuning in today's episode, guys. Be sure to give it a like, comment, let us know what you think. If you think a friend would value it, share it with them. And also, too, to help support the podcast a little extra bit, go to patreon.com/studio mindfulness. And to check out all my programs and all the other content I have going on, go to mitchellcrocker.com. That has all my social media links and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Cheers for tuning in too.